Hey guys, this is Alan with Roadway Striping Inc. and today I'm going to be showing you how to blow out a Linelazer and get it ready for fresh paint. The first thing I'm going to do anytime I ever come to work on a piece of equipment is I'm going to make sure that the system is not under pressure. And the way that I'm going to do that is I'm going to come up here to the circuit board and make sure that my pump is in the off position and my pressure is turned all the way down. And then I'm going to come over here to this priming line right here, and I'm going to relieve this priming valve. Just to ensure there that we don't have any residual pressure in the lines, and then we can get to work. Now that we've relieved all the pressure out of the system, and we're sure that none of these lines are currently under pressure, I grabbed an empty bucket here and filled it up with lacquer thinner. I'm working with oil-based paint. If you're using waterborne paint, you fill this bucket with water, clean water. So I'm going to take my pickup tube here, and I'm going to take it out of my bucket of material. This bucket happens to be some material that has been sitting here in the shop for a little while. So I'm going to take that pickup tube and I'm going to transfer it down here into our bucket of lacquer thinner. I'm going to keep the priming line in the bucket of material here. We're going to try to cycle out as much material back into our original. We're trying to save as much material as possible. And I don't want to contaminate my lacquer thinner with the material that we have in the bucket. So now that we have our pickup tube in this bucket of lacquer, I'm going to go ahead and start the motor up. Remember, I have my pressure turned all the way down. I have my pump in the off position. I have my priming valve open, so there's no pressure in the system. It's not going to start pressurizing or cycling as soon as I start the engine, so that's why all that stuff is off. So anyways, I'm going to go ahead and start this engine. Okay, now that the machine is running and I have my pickup tube and some lacquer thinner, I'm going to go ahead with my pressure all the way down. I'm going to go ahead and turn on the pump. Okay, the pump switches are a little bit different in between makes and models. The pump switches on the previous models look like this. They're labeled off and on. The pressure dial's right here on the left. But on these Linelazer 5s, the pressure knob is integrated into the kill switch. So down turns your pump on. So now that my pump is on, I'm going to use the pressure dial to engage the pump. So I can engage the pump by turning the pressure up a little bit, and I can disengage the pump by turning it back down to 0. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this on just enough to get it to start pumping. There we go. I'm going to let that cycle like that until it starts to push out lacquer thinner. I'm going to turn that pressure dial off. We're back down to 0, which disengaged the pump. And now I have lacquer running from my pickup through the pump, through the filter, and then into the priming line into the bucket. I'm going to go ahead and take this priming line here and transfer it to my bucket of lacquer thinner. Okay, when I'm blowing out machines here, I like to work in the order of least resistance, or the shortest path of travel for the material when I'm blowing out a machine. So I'm going to start with the priming line, okay? As you can see, right, so the paint is sucked up through this suction tube and the pickup hose into the bottom of the pump there. Once it travels through the pump, it comes out of this line here and travels up into the filter housing. Once it goes into the filter housing, you have a couple options here. If the priming valve is open, it's going to run back down this priming line back into the bucket. So if that priming valve is open, it's just going to go in a loop. It's going to go up the pickup tube, through the pump, through the filter, and back through the return line here, the priming line. If you close that valve, it will pressurize your gun hoses. This machine has 2 hoses. It has a short whip hose and then a long 50-foot hose on the back of it. So when I'm blowing these out, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to recirculate and get my priming line clean. Once the priming line's clean, I'm going to move to my next shortest hose, which on this machine is going to be this whip hose. If I didn't have two hoses, only had one, then I'd go from the priming line and then I'd jump straight to the long hose. For example, like this machine over here, it does not have a whip hose on it. It's been plugged there and it only has the long hose. But in the case of having two guns, we're just going to go in the path of least resistance. Okay, so we already got it back through our priming line. My pump is still in the off position. So I'm going to take this whip hose here, and I'm going to use this priming valve as my actuator, if you will. So I'm going to go ahead and point this in the bucket downwards at a 45-degree angle and squeeze the trigger. And then I'm going to turn my pump on until it starts pumping, just until it starts pumping. Okay, I hear that pumping gate. And now I'm just going to use this priming valve to give myself pressure, and then relieve pressure. Pressure, you see it come down your gun there. Circulating knives, I got some very thin material. So I'm going to open that, let go of the trigger, and turn my pump off. So now, I cycled material back to the priming line. I cycled it through my next shortest hose, which is the whip hose. So now we're going to take our long hose. And I'm going to do the same thing here. With my priming valve open, I'm going to turn the pump until it just starts pumping. There it is. I'm going to squeeze the trigger, and then I'm going to use the priming valve to give myself pressure. Alright, once I'm satisfied with the cleanliness of the material coming out of this, I'm going to go ahead and close this priming valve and just let go of the trigger. Now the pump is built up some pressure there. We're maintaining about 300 psi in the line. It's low pressure, but what that's going to do is going to prevent air pockets from forming in the lines and letting paint dry in the line. Alright, so there you have it. There's not a whole lot to it. I just want to kind of reiterate the order of events here. Anytime I work on a machine, I am 100% sure that the machine is not under pressure when I go to work on it, okay? And anytime I want to relieve pressure and open this priming valve, always, 100% of the time, always, put one hand on the priming line itself and hold this in place when you relieve pressure on this priming valve here. If you walk up to this machine and you don't know how much pressure it's under, and you just hit this priming release valve, this thing may be stored under 1200 psi, and it's going to blow that priming hose out of the bucket and spray paint all over the wall, all over you, into your legs, who knows, right? So I always treat machines like they're under pressure if they've been stored, if they haven't been running. I'm not sure who used it last. They may have got up and stored it at 1200 psi and then turned the pressure knob all the way down to 0. So it looks like it's not under pressure, but it really is still under 1200 psi. So like I said, anytime you're gonna work on a machine, you want to make sure that the system isn't under pressure. You're going to relieve any pressure that's on the system, just to be safe. All right, everybody, thanks for watching. If you have any questions, just leave it down in the comments below. If there's a video that you'd like to see, something specific for a machine, you can leave that down below as well, and I'll try to make it happen. Thanks, guys.